Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 76 of Underexposed, our weekly macro show, hitting all the biggest topics and trends impacting crypto and broader Web3. Today is Tuesday, June 16th, 2026. Folks, the Iran war is ending. SpaceX stock is soaring. Crypto majors are rebounding. Hype set a new all-time high. Are animal spirits returning for the summer? We're going to talk about it on today's show. I'm your host, Tyler D. I got my co-host in the house with me, D's, GM, and happy hype all-time high to you. I believe you are one who celebrates. GM, how you doing?
GM, having a great day. We hit the new all-time high, and now we're kind of retracing a little bit, but feels great, especially on a day where Bitcoin, ETH, Solana are red, Nasdaq's down 1%. Nice to see hype up.
Feels good indeed. Peter, our resident founder of several companies / macro expert, still finds time to hang out with us. Jim, how you doing?
Jim, yeah, happy to be here. I was feeling pretty bearish last week, and happy we got some of this euphoria. I was able to take a little bit of risk off the table. So yeah, eager to chat with you guys. A lot of interesting things happening right now.
Yeah, we have to revisit the takes from last week and then where they sit here this week. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. I'm not ready to say that it's a done deal, but we are feeling good. Just a few days post SpaceX IPO, there are some positive signs in markets. So, folks, what are we going to talk about on today's show? We're going to talk macro, SpaceX IPO reactions, what's coming next. FOMC predictions is tomorrow, arguably the most important FOMC in a long time. Wells Fargo, they're saying there's going to be an everything rally summer. We'll talk about their thesis. Crypto majors finally rebounding. Is the local bottom and hype's new all-time high. Pokemon meta soaring. What we're trading at a lot more. So we have a lot to cover on today's show. A couple housekeeping items. As always, we're live on Kick. We're streaming on X as well. Give us a follow. Give us a retweet. Let's get more folks in the stream with us. Yeet Leaderboard, while we're not doing live giveaways on the show anymore, there is still a $2,000 a month leaderboard for the Morning Minute. So use the Morning Minute affiliate code and you will be potentially rewarded for how much you are playing on a monthly basis based on where you sit on that leaderboard. I think the top 5 to top 10 are getting prizes every month. So check that out if you're interested. And always, before we get started, quick disclosure. The opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and do not reflect the views or opinions of any organizations they are associated with. We are here to share insights, provoke thoughts, and maybe even stir some debate, but this is not, I repeat, not financial advice. While we talk about markets, investments, and trends, remember, your financial decisions should be made with the help of your own research or with advice from a licensed professional. All right, let's get right into it. I will fire up the screen share for those who are in the stream alongside us here. And we can quickly take a look at markets, and then I want to get right to SpaceX, though. Crypto majors, red today, but green on the week. So Bitcoin up 8% since last week's show, back at 66K. ETH up even more. ETH up 10%, 1780. Solana up 14% at 73. Hyperliquid up 27%, 74.50. Down a tick since its all-time high that hit overnight. In broader markets, stocks just continue to rise. Yesterday was a huge green day. Stocks are green again. Okay, looks like the Nasdaq's flipped to red, but still they are grinding up, and seemingly on the back of this massive SpaceX IPO, it has since jumped Amazon in market cap overnight after a 25% pump in this stock over the last 24 hours. Let's see, where is it trading live? It's trading at 212. That's 2.8 trillion. Now up over 50%, or right around 50% from that 135 IPO price. So this is the story of the week, perhaps month and year. Peter, I guess let's just dive right into the SpaceX IPO. Like what went right? What have been your reactions so far to how this has played out now that we're about 2.5 days in?
Yeah, the low float, high FTV model from crypto is working extremely well with SpaceX. Today it's trading above Amazon's market cap, which is fascinating. Obviously, there's a lot of hype around this, but yeah, a little surprising to me. Just, I mean, I did see this scenario as part of the range of outcomes, but it's wild to kind of see what's happening. Just for reference, Amazon had 743 billion in revenue, trades at 2.5 trillion, and SpaceX is at 18 billion in revenue at this market cap currently. And of course, there's a ton of reasons to be optimistic about SpaceX long term, but there's definitely euphoria in the air. And all of my wealthy friends, I'm having a lot of FOMO because they all have been on the SpaceX ride for either a long period of time or recently got allocation. And yeah, it's done extremely well. If you got the, earlier than the initial IPO, and then if you got a lot of shares at IPO, you've done extremely well, assuming you've taken some profits. So it's exciting. I'm really optimistic about the long-term future and what SpaceX can deliver. They're making a lot of really smart moves, and you have to give credit to Elon for just being not only an amazing builder, but an amazing marketer. And they have great economics set up here, just with the fast entry rule, the kind of staggered lockup. They've done really well executing this IPO. So kudos to them. And I still have some broad concerns about the market, but I think this is pretty impressive. Or not, it's objective. It's really impressive how this has been executed given the size of the IPO and where it's at.
I want to get into more detail on some of those points, but before we go there, Dees, just want to toss it to you. Did you end up making any plays on the IPO, either from a stock perspective on hyperliquid perps? Did you make any plays?
No, we talked about it last week. I didn't play it at all. Just like to see it go up. I'm a fan of the number going up.
Well, you are also indirectly, or just maybe just directly impacted because it's done 1.65 billion in volume on hyperliquid in the last 24 hours. It's the number 2 asset on the platform, only behind Bitcoin, and it's barely behind Bitcoin. It's now significantly above ETH, which is in third, and hype. So it's helping pump your hype back. I think this is a big part of the bull case for hype, which I want to get to later on in the show. Getting into more details about like the SpaceX trade from here. A few interesting pieces. So I saw Nate Gerasi tweeting this out, basically when the big indexes will be allowed to get into the SpaceX trade. And it looks like it's starting to come pretty soon. So Russell will be able to add at the 5-day mark. So that's Friday, Bloomberg 5-day, Morningstar. And then a few MSCI next Friday, NASDAQ 2 weeks from Friday. And Dow will be able to add this Friday as well. So that buy pressure hasn't even started coming yet. So Peter, I mean, just looking at this, my left curve reaction is it probably trades higher in the next week, barring some other big macro catalyst to the downside. I mean, have you started thinking about how this plays out in like the very near future from here?
Yeah, there's really not many sellers, and that's why it's a masterclass. And we'll see, I don't think we'll see sellers until there's like, significant downside pressure. But yeah, the buyers come in before the cascade of all the selling. So we'll see how it moves. I mean, I do think that that's a reasonable take. I think that's probably, the base case. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. I'm just blown away at how well they've executed on this. And for sure, one of the aspects that I mentioned off the top was the fast entry rule, which is going to be very, very good from a demand perspective. And there's just not that many. There's just a low float of sellers. So I think your thesis makes sense, but it's a really hard game to play. And certainly right now, you're not investing short term on the fundamentals. You're investing on the promise and kind of the future of the business.
Well, not even that. I almost think you're investing on like tokenomics for lack of.
Yeah, you're trading on that. Yeah, so that's. I mean, I think there's a distinction between trading and investing, right? If you're trading, for sure, that's a really interesting thing. You can try to play the game. I mean, the market knows when there's going to be buying pressure. Maybe people are front running that, and they're certainly aware of the sell pressure as well. It's very clear when there's unlocks and things of that nature. So we'll see. I mean, the Brad Gerstner podcast did a great job talking about SpaceX and Anthropic that came out on Friday. That's a must-listen episode, in my opinion. And they lay out a lot of really reasonable bull cases for SpaceX. So some of the parts could really be big, and really on the compute side, that could be a huge aspect of the enterprise value. So they're executing at an incredible rate, and you have to give Elon so much credit. And I do see the merit and around the argument that it's going to trade higher in the short term, just given the pressure that we're going to have. And there's just really not that many sellers.
I've seen a handful of unlocked charts. So take this one with a little grain of salt. I haven't had a chance to thoroughly vet it. Looks like the first big round comes July. That gets us up to about 15% and kind of stair steps up. August, September, October gets up to about 35% of the supply is out. Then a big unlock in October takes it up to 50%, 50, 60 by the end of the year. And then Elon's huge chunk comes up next year, but it's not like he's going to just sell that huge chunk. So that's not that necessarily big of a leap from there, but you do have a pretty huge grind up of stock shares available to sell from June to October, or July to October rather. So that does feel like where the turmoil perhaps starts to come in. But for the next few weeks, at least, it feels like it's let the good times roll. At least how I'm feeling about this one. I'm feeling a little bit of pain because I knew this was a low float, high FTV. I know how those trades play out. And we have some exposure. We were able to get an allocation around 800 billion, which is up nicely, but it's not in the biggest size. And ultimately passed on the IPO, and certainly kicking myself for that. But very curious to see how it plays out from here. My gut still says we see a fairly significant drawdown during these unlocks, and there will be another entry. I'm curious, Peter, have you, from an investing standpoint, have you started thinking about that and like what price point or what time period you would think about getting in?
Yeah, I mean,
back.
That's my view, is because I want to have a long-term position in this. So I kick myself a little bit on the IPO, although I would be really inclined to trade it just given the price action. But I think that we'll have an opportunity to buy this lower. That's just my view. A lot of people, I still see a ton of risk to the market. I do see a lot of merit in some of the upside. And I'm just, I have such a long bias by nature. And that's generally still how I'm positioned, but I've just been trying to de-risk going back a couple of weeks ago. And last week, obviously when prices are down, you're feeling, more FOMO or more fear around, I should have de-risked even more. And then fortunately we got this really nice run here. So to me, that's just a way to just take a little bit of risk off the table and be in position to, be able to invest in something like SpaceX down the road. But I'm definitely having FOMO because tons of my friends are getting hilariously rich right now. Like,
I don't have FOMO at this price point.
Even guys, I mean, they've been in for a long time, and then
guys have been in for 3 days.
100,000. They get 100,000 shares at the IPO price in addition to the hundreds of thousands of shares they already have, and it's just like you just see these screenshots. I mean, they're making all this money. I mean, Elon made more money than Warren Buffett made in his career in one day. So many interesting things. But
yeah, we pulled up the billionaire trillionaire list this morning on FOMO. Elon's at 1.4 trillion. The next up is Larry Page at 300 billion. He's up $1 trillion over the next person. It's like kind of hard to even wrap your head around that. But that's a conversation we don't necessarily need to get into. But you mentioned the risks in the market, so I'd like to dig into that a little bit, because I've been reading up more of the bull propaganda, and I'm ready to chat through the Wells Fargo everything rally summer. But before we go there, like, what are the risks that you're thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, just where interest rates are, we have inflation. A lot of the economy is struggling. It's a full K-shaped situation where the haves are doing amazing, the have-nots are doing terrible. So that generally leads to unrest and different things. Glad we at least have this announcement of the Iran war, and it seems like it's hopefully going to hold. But I still have pessimism that will be a sustained, point of peace, just given what we've seen in the Middle East. So I think there's more risk to the downside there. And we have Warsh speaking tomorrow, so it'll be really interesting to see what he says. So I mean, again, I have such a long bias. I think I mentioned this last show that in general, I'm an optimist. Bears get to be right, bulls get to be rich. I always want to be positioned that way, but part of just being a capital allocator, and it's obviously dynamic to the situation, but I do think that there are times where there's merit to just have your risk a little bit lower. And Gerstner and those guys were talking on their podcast just about all the bull cases around AI and SpaceX. And Gerstner just said, we went from long to medium small, like basically like kind of as long as they can be as a firm to dialed down. And I know a lot of smart people, like Flood just came out, markets top this year. There's quite a few people kind of pointing to that, and then there's a ton of people saying that we're just going to rip way higher, which could be the case as well. So you just have to assign probabilities, and for me, it's just a time to be a little bit more cautious. And when you get rips like this, it's really nice to be able to just de-risk a smidge. And I also want to be positioned to do uncorrelated kind of arbitrage within prediction markets, which is not everyone has that opportunity. And again, it's all dynamic to where you are in life. If you're young, you should be taking a ton of risk. And, if you have a family, maybe you want to be a little bit more protective. And obviously if you're older and retired, then capital preservation and making sure you have the income to survive is the most important thing. So it's all dynamic to where you are. And my view is just that we've seen a lot of euphoria and just kind of crazy price action. And I came into the year thinking that there, could be a base case for SpaceX being kind of a local top.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And I mean, I don't think that outcome is off the table yet by any means. Like, I don't want that to happen, of course. But I feel like there's a little bit, maybe there's this vibe of folks kind of counting their chickens before they're hatched. Like, we're day 3. Like, I don't know that we've really necessarily seen all the effects of the liquidity suck just yet. And again, I hope we're not going to see it, but I'm a little cautious because of that. So I think some cautiousness is warranted here. I want to talk FOMC. So Warsh coming out tomorrow. We're still pricing in 42% chance of a hike, 14% chance of 2 hikes this year. Tomorrow feels pretty important pretty much for the rest of the summer. What he comes out and says, his tone. And I do feel like the Iran war peace agreement has given him a potential path to show some dovish, or to signal some dovish rhetoric, if that's where he's kind of leaning. I'm curious if you think he's going to do that, or just kind of like what are the outcomes that we might see tomorrow that you're kind of thinking through, or is it going to be a nothing burger? Are we overhyping it? Just curious how you're thinking about tomorrow, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he wants to rock the boat. I think he wants to come in and give himself maximum optionality. So I imagine he's going to be pretty down the middle. I do think he'll use this as an opportunity to kind of express his long-term views. I expect him to say we're going to be data dependent a ton. One thing I'm excited about with Warsh and kind of what this kind of the new age Fed is saying is they want to collect data in a different way. They want to use different sources, which I think is highly needed. So that should be really positive. And, in general, I'm just excited to hear what he has to say. There's a lot of people who have a ton of admiration and respect for him. I have some friends who know him well personally. And I think he was a great choice and hopefully will be an excellent Fed chair. I thought Powell broadly did a really good job, obviously made a couple mistakes, but I still think he did a really good job as chair, and hopefully Warsh kind of continues that. But it is, I think there's definitely more downside risk than there's upside risk. I don't expect them to come out and be like, oh, we're going to, cut rates a ton and do all. I would be shocked by that. And I do think that there's probably more risk to the downside in terms of him mentioning inflation and just how they need to make sure that stays in check, because that's historically been one of his biggest points of emphasis, is just more of an inflation hawk. So to me, there's a little bit more downside risk there. And then, just going back, I think the Iran war, I mean, we saw what happened when Israel attacked Lebanon again. Trump went nuts. I think Trump obviously wanted the peace deal done coinciding with his birthday and obviously the UFC fight and everything else. And then more importantly for markets, I think he wanted to make sure that they had something done ahead of war speaking, because the worst case scenario for the economy ahead of midterms and everything else, that we have rampant inflation. So getting that deal done definitely gives an out to wars. And certainly something that's changed since last week is just having that peace agreement. So we'll see how long that lasts. I hope it lasts. I want more peace. I want markets to go up. I want abundance for everyone. But still just a little cautious relative to kind of my broad baseline, which is pretty optimistic and long-term minded.
Yeah, I mean, oil was $90 a barrel when we did the show last week. It's 75 right now, the lowest it's been since March 4th. So Trump did get the price down ahead of Warsh's first presser. So we'll see what Warsh does with that potential ammo. I think there'll be a lot of eyes on that tomorrow. Well, I want to talk a little bit. So you've laid out some bearish factors. I do want to talk some of the bullish. I mean, I was looking through Wells Fargo, their latest thesis. They're calling it the everything rally summer. And basically, they're saying that only AI and chip stocks have gone up so far this year. Rest of the market's been relatively dead weight. They think that flips this summer, and that the other sectors that have been lagging start to outperform. They say the main trigger is the Iran war winding down. That was the big overhang. So it left investors not making riskier moves. They were making safer plays. The AI trade was safe. But now with that overhang gone, that perhaps it will be time for these other assets to start catching up. I think that's a part of Standard Chartered also came out and said they think the Bitcoin bottom is in. They pointed to the geopolitical easing, as well as inflows starting to flip. And then, of course, the SpaceX IPO, which was this huge overhang seemingly over markets. Now that's in the rear view mirror. So I think that is a setup for a potential bull case. I can get behind it. I don't know how much that really extends into crypto or not. I feel like I could see it applying to broader sectors of traditional markets, perhaps more than crypto, but we'll see. Deez, maybe I'll toss it over to you. Reactions to the everything rally.
I mean, I love the name. I love the sentiment. I would love if every single thing that all three of us owns goes up this summer. That's a better summer than any other summer I can think of from a price angle. I don't know if I'm fully on board with it or not. I mean, I guess I am technically positioned for it. I always take like any type of thing from like a bank or an asset manager with 500 grains of salt, because I just assume that they're trying to say the most bullish things to get people to continually allocating on like a 2-week basis. But I like it. I mean, if we can push that as common knowledge that this is the everything summer, I'm very happy with that. But I do think I'm closer to Peter, where I'm like, I want to be more cautious than I want to take on more risk right now. It's also, I think, just being a new dad. So
yeah,
it makes me more biased to sell stuff.
That is very fair. I'll be doing my part to pound the table on the everything rally summer thesis, and punishing the sell in May and go away crowd, which right now is looking you're a little nervous.
If you sold, yeah, you're a little nervous.
Looking a little nervous. Well, let's
unless you sold Bitcoin in the beginning of May,
then you're not nervous.
Yeah, you're happy.
Well, let's pivot to some crypto talk. We did 30 minutes on SpaceX and macro. I think the story of the day, week again is Hyperliquid. Hit a new all-time high overnight, 76.50. I mean, it seemingly is on back of all the SpaceX attention volume that I rattled off earlier in the show. $1.6 billion in trading volume just over the last day. It's number 2 on the board, and it just signals kind of like what is to come. We know Anthropic IPO, OpenAI IPO are coming. Is Hyperliquid going to be the home for price discovery for those as well? The attention's only going to increase from here. I posted about this morning. I got some replies that it wasn't the SpaceX attention. It's the cash flow. It's the fundamentals. I don't know if I buy.
I mean, the cash flow and the fundamentals is driven by this SpaceX stuff too.
But I mean, so show me where the cash flows are spiking on this chart.
That giant spike in May that was flatlined from February until May. I don't know.
I'm right here. So this was 9 days ago, which this would have been corresponding probably to when the day crypto bottomed. But I guess I'm not being bearish, but I'm just trying to like play the opposite side of like the hype euphoria a little bit. Is like it doesn't look like revenue is growing in any way to me, and yet the token just continues to grind up, and I feel like it will continue to grind up. But like, is there a point in time where like we have to start seeing the revenues go up as well, or does that not matter for this? I'm curious, like how much do you pay attention to this, Deez? I know you're a holder. You've been since the very beginning. Am I just totally mid-curving this?
I mean, I look at this like once every week or two. Half the time, I don't look at it till it gets brought up on the show because we bring it up all the time.
Yeah.
I think if you stare at this a little too much, you can mid-curve it.
Mm-hmm.
I think them adding all the different markets, getting the narrative. I just feel like the narrative is still super good, and we live in a primarily like narrative-driven investing world now. So I think for like outside capital looking in, when they're like, oh, like, hey, crypto's been, boring for a while. What's interesting? Like, this is the thing that gets brought up and not much else. I mean, I do think for it to expand like 5-10x from where it is, obviously we're going to need to see these stay up a little more consistently, but like for where we're at, I don't feel like it's terrible, or I don't feel like just because the bar isn't like the September bars were so high because like the prices were so high too.
Yeah.
Like it when you're making money on like $120,000 Bitcoin and $45,000 or $4,500 ETH and stuff, like, yeah, the money is going to look nicer. But now, Bitcoin's half the price. Well, the revenues, I don't think they've compressed 50%. And I'm not saying it's directly correlated to the price of the assets being traded, but I'm saying I think that does have a big impact on it. And when things are trading at higher prices like they were in September, that I don't look too into it.
Yeah, I was going to give that counter as a part of the bull case is revenues have held up pretty well given the price of like all the crypto assets on their platform.
Yeah, and like the HIP-3 stuff just seems like every time we bring up Hyperliquid in the last 3 months, it's because of like HIP-3 stuff. It's like, okay, well, first we have the Iran stuff, and then like people are trading oil on Hyperliquid over the weekend, and it's like finding price discovery. And then, recently with the SpaceX IPO, but before the SpaceX IPO, we were talking about, I forget what other HIP-3 markets, but it's like every week or two. It's
oil. Like, it was
yeah, there's
silver.
like the pre-IPO stuff, but the pre-IPO stuff didn't have that much volume or open interest. So I don't know. I don't get too worried about this. Now, if this like flat lines, like if this dropped 50% from here and stayed there for 2 months while the world, goes up, I would be worried.
Who feels like the biggest hype competitor right now? But I'll give you some options. So we've got Coinbase, who announced real tokenized stocks today. We know they're doing perps. Kraken launched perps. Kalshi launched crypto perps. And then there's Lit and Variational, of course. I guess who feels like some of the biggest comps from your point of view? And then part two of that question is, do you think they'll take any meaningful share or just grow the overall pie?
I mean, directly, I guess it's lit. In my head, at least, I don't really think of like Kraken and Coinbase as competitors with Hype, and that's probably wrong. Um, but like in my head, they're like Coinbase is something like my mom uses. Um, my mom isn't interested in Hyperliquid. Like I don't know. Maybe I just think about those differently. But in my head, it's like I guess lit.
Peter, curious for your thoughts on like just the perps sector, big players. And you mentioned prediction markets. Have you been paying attention much to Kalshi perps, what they're doing? Do you think they could be a significant player?
Yeah, I mean, I've been obsessed with perps for a couple of years now. Did a lot of delta neutral stuff last year. Continue to have a couple of those trades on. I just think perps are a much better way to express a view because you get to say what you think is going to happen without having to express when you think it'll happen, which is just exponentially better. So I expect perps to continue to grow in popularity, and I think the biggest competitors are going to be some of these other businesses. I think if I had to bet on kind of where the perp volume is going to go, I'd bet on companies like Robinhood. I think Kalshi has a real chance. Kalshi is just absolutely on fire right now as a business. Of course, you have Coinbase and other things, but long term, I expect Schwab and Fidelity, Interactive Brokers, like those places to be, ultimately they're really big competitors. But Hyperliquid's an amazing company, great leadership. I've been pretty pessimistic on crypto relative to other things you could own, but I've maintained kind of a long on lighter. I've been lighthearted for a while, which hasn't been great until recently. And then Hype has been a long-term play that I just haven't changed. I feel much better about both of those, even relative to something like Bitcoin. So that's just kind of a trend that I think is going to continue. And there's so many different directions that Hyperliquid can continue to expand into these RWAs. And it's clearly such a great use case for, crypto as perps, and just that this started here first. And I think Jeff and the team have done an unbelievable job executing. And I think the RWA sector is going to continue to get more and more traction. And like I mentioned last week, I had, people who are not crypto bros at all, just finance guys looking at SpaceX and just watching SpaceX yesterday. I was thrilled to see kind of the volume there. So I guess that's one positive. Even though I have all this FOMO around SpaceX right now, I get to see Hype hit all-time highs, which is super exciting.
It is cool to see. As a crypto native, you mentioned the RWA growth, and I'm going to throw out this other Wall Street target that came out in the last 24 hours. Not sure if you guys saw this.
Oh,
but now Standard Chartered, Jeff Kendricks, their head of digital assets, saying that because RWAs are going to 40x on chain by 2030, one of the best ways to play that is, drumroll, Uniswap.
Oh,
And they laid out a $100 price target for Uni 2030. I think Uniswap is trading around $2.70. It pumped today on the back of this. Oh wow, it's already up over 3. So more like a 30x for Uniswap. I guess the thesis here is that RWAs are coming on chain. Uniswap has some of the deepest liquidity for on-chain DEX trades. And as the overall pie grows significantly, Uniswap would be in position to capture a lot of that. Curious for your reactions to this one. Maybe I'll throw it to you, Dees.
My gut reaction is I want to hate it. But if I try not to be biased for a second, and I try to be bullish, I think, okay, well, I'm pretty sure Uniswap is like fully circulating or close to fully circulating now. It has to be because it's been out for so long.
Yeah, pretty close.
Really? No, like what sellers are left who haven't unlocked and sold it? it's by far the most bullish DEX I think we have. I don't know if it's the most bullish DEX token we have, but at the end of the day, it's a very important piece of technology that underpins like a lot of our ecosystem, and it's fully distributed, like fully circulating. And I don't think I want to play it myself, but I mean, we're bullish on ETH, which I don't know if we're bullish on ETH. I'm bullish on ETH the network. I'm not bullish on ETH the token, but I'm bullish on ETH the network. I, you know, Uniswap is like, I don't know if I can get behind the price target, but like I could maybe see the narrative. It's just not something I want to buy myself because I'm so biased not to like it because of like, being here for 7 years. But I do think, there is a world where the useful technology that's been made over the last 10 years that is fully circulating does get some bid by outside capital in the future for the value that they may see in it.
I was trying to look at the details of the fee switch that Uniswap turned on, and I'm not getting all the details.
Yeah, I haven't seen too much like fanfare about the Uniswap fees.
Yeah, I think there's probably a hole in this. If I was going to push back, that would be one of the ways I would push back. Also, like, how much fees are they generating? They're 27th on the list.
Yeah,
7 million.
It's something where like I would maybe try to trade it if it was a short-term narrative, but like I can't bring myself to just DCA into Uniswap with a long-term view and weather any volatility with it. Like I don't have that type of relationship or conviction with the token or thesis to even think about that.
Not there. Not sure I'm quite there with you, Jeff, on the $100 call for Uni. You need a few more things to go right.
But these calls are always ridiculous. I mean, like,
I guess that's how you get the headlines.
Yeah, like
if
I mean, when you buy it for $2, you're gonna be happy to sell it for $6 or $8. Like you're not fucking holding it for $100.
Could it go back to 1020 for sure? I could absolutely see that. But I mean, the problem, it goes back to one of the new themes of this cycle, though, right? Like if Uniswap doesn't have the fundamentals, if it doesn't have like a full buyback of the token, like, are you gonna? Does it even matter if it's seeing that this growth? Like, is the market gonna respect that enough? I think that's a huge question out there, and probably a part of why it's trading as low as it is. And no, I'm seeing right now, I mean, it's not that unlocked. It still has about 35% to go, which is surprising. If CoinMarketCap is correct, yeah, market cap is 1.9 billion, FTV is 2.7. So that's actually still a big swap. But I thought that was interesting. And then another very interesting development, near and dear to some of the tokens we talk about on the show a fair amount, is what's been happening with Zeke. So the Zeke exploit a week and a half ago, token crashes 60%. And then Zuko and team, they've come out, they proposed the Ironwood upgrade, new pools that are proven, that are secure, as well as a way to prove whether or not the protocol was exploited or not. And they went further this past Friday. And with Anthropic's help, they were able to do a full security audit using Mythos. And the results of the audit, no more serious bugs in the Zcash protocol. So now a narrative here, Zcash is Mythos proof. We saw Evan66 come out. He made his post over the weekend. Speculative excess on Zcash washed out in that crash. Now they've confirmed all these updates. Mythos proof, Ironwood update should prove it's secure, and then also prove whether or not this exploit happened. And then is it time to get back in the trade? So I'm curious. You've been in and out of this trade. Are you back in Zeke or Zeke lined?
I'm Zeke lined right now. Well, I have the spot moon bag.
Okay.
Actually, no, I don't. I sold that. Fuck. So yeah, no, I'm fully Zeke lined because I panic sold that on the FUD. Yeah. So we're actually full. Yeah. So I don't have any. I think it's tough with the security thing because I had lower conviction in it than I think most holders anyway. So as soon as like the security shit came out, I cut what I had left of the moon bag, and then I didn't think to rebuy it back because I thought, similar to Peter, like just the whole environment, I wanted to be more cautious. So like I wasn't super excited to buy the dip on Zcash. And then fuck. I don't think I'm buying back in here at 500. I'm just gonna wait. If it goes to a new all-time high without me from here, like it is what it is. But I'm pretty comfortable missing it.
I don't
If
know.
it goes to $50,000 or whatever target that you were putting out a couple weeks ago, I'm gonna be
20,000.
really
20,000.
upset. 30. Yeah. If it's 5 digits, I'm gonna be upset. But other than that, I don't think I'll be too upset.
Don't worry. If it starts playing out the 2017 Bitcoin fractal, I'll be hitting you over the head with that on a week by week basis on this show. So you'll have a chance to come along.
I'll have a chance to buy it at 2,500. Yeah, I'll be back in by 2,500. I'll hit the last 4x.
Yeah, 8x from there if we truly play it out. It is an interesting one. I don't know if this token is one that will trade in a cost will grind up higher or go parabolic by any means in a cautious environment. I think you probably need the animal spirits back.
I was already starting to feel like, regardless of any exploit or anything, that at like $700, it was getting overvalued again.
Yeah.
So that is another thing that I'm thinking about. Like, okay, well, if I get this at an exploit discount of like 350, I'm gonna be really happy if I like double my money. And is that worth the risk of the exploit stuff? And obviously now that risk seems to have been, it doesn't seem like a risk anymore, but also I think it's just in the back of people's minds now, anytime they're going to think of Zcash for the short to midterm.
Yeah, I think there's a couple aspects of that. I think you're spot on. I think I could even see it in the discourse online, on chain or on Twitter before this even, the exploit even happened. Folks is kind of like looking for their exit point, right? Like what needs to happen? Is it a price point or is it like a FUD event? Like folks just kind of looking for a reason to hit that sell button. But a part of it, I feel like it's also just like this new perps era mindset where you take these trades on perps, you have to have an exit plan. And you have to kind of have your finger on the trigger all the time. And it is a different mindset than a spot position where it's a little easier to weather the storm. I mean, I'm only holding Zeke and spot. So like the crash sucked, but I didn't get liquidated.
Yeah.
And my stress levels really didn't go that high. But a huge chunk of people, at least in crypto Twitter, are very likely trading this on Hyperliquid. And thus they either got liquidated that day or they had to exit. And I feel like we're going to see more and more impacts of that. I think we saw kind of the impacts of like how the other quadfecta alts all sold off 20% that day in some like correlated consensus trade action. So I was talking about that on FOMO. I think that's kind of a new market dynamic to watch going forward as an impact of this new perps meta.
And watching how all the other big tokens reacted, it's like, shit, well, I would rather just buy Hyperliquid.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because it reacted the best out of all the tokens. And I'm not saying
safest, right? It feels the safest.
Yeah.
It really does.
Like I didn't feel very compelled, and this is my own mistake probably, but like when VVV was like $13-14, I didn't feel like I needed to buy that dip. When NEAR was under $2, I didn't feel like I needed to buy the dip. We haven't mentioned it on this show, but like WorldCoin I've been watching because it's a nice chart. Still don't feel the need to buy the dip. So also don't know what happened to my camera. Why is it like look like I'm gray?
You still look good to me.
Oh, okay. So it's something on my end.
So yeah, you mentioned and World's got a nice looking chart actually. Not sure that I totally trust this one. It's another one that's been super low float, high FDV, which is kind of why I've stayed away. But you mentioned you didn't want to buy dips on any of those. I mean, are there any tokens out there that you're looking at that you would want to buy a dip on?
I mentioned it last week, and I should have bought it last week because it was on the show during a dip. But the cards token for the Pokemon meta is like one of the few that I think I'd feel pretty confident buying the dip on. closer to like 40 mil, which is around where it was last week when I thought. So they had they haven't confirmed this, and it might not be 100% true, but there was a rumor going on this week that they finally started some type of buyback of the token. And there was some on-chain analysis linking to like some of the treasury wallets about the buyback. But they haven't officially said anything about it. So that rumor kind of is what pushed it from 42 to 73, I think. Or that was like a big driver. So
that makes sense.
If I can get this like under 50 with more of this buyback rumor stuff, I think it's a pretty good buy. So this is like the one on my short list because we talk about it every couple of weeks about the Pokemon TCG stuff, and there's just really not that many liquid ways to play it. This is the by far like the biggest, most liquid way to play it. But they also have like, you know, tokens unlocking and stuff like that. So it's not the cleanest thing, but I think it's still pretty. It's one of the few things that I would have outside of Hyperliquid, which we talk about every fucking week. One of the few things that I would have some decent conviction putting like, you know, 50, 100 grand into and hanging on to it and see what happens.
It's the coin of the leader and what's one of the strongest metas out there with Pokemon and TCG.
Yeah, and I don't know when these other companies like what their TCG what their token plans are. I mean, their TGE plans. Like they've been around for a while, like places like Courtyard and stuff, and they haven't done their tokens, so who knows?
Well, I know I pull up the Hyperliquid revenue, and it can be a little annoying, but I don't know if you've seen like this cards revenue.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. That's one of the reasons I'm comfortable buying the token.
8th on the week. It's just behind Pump Fund. It's almost neck and neck with Pump Fund. In revenue, Pump Fund's trading at 1.5x. You could argue in a sector that's dying versus one that's on the way up. It's right behind.
You know what? You mentioned Pump. Another token on my list. I don't have as much conviction in it, and it's spiking today. But I have Pumpcade on the list of like when it gets around 10 million. I think it's interesting. It got down to 12 or 13, but actually just spiked to like 25. That's another one I think is kind of forgotten about. Seems like their heads down working on some stuff that's going to come out sooner rather than later. So it got a huge pump from it was the first Pump Fund like community incubator thing, whatever. And then they raised money from Jump and Foundation and some other people. So had that huge pump, but I think is like, you know, it's not shiny and people forget about it. It becomes something interesting to gamble on again.
Wow, it's got to 14-15. Yeah, that was a pretty good entry in hindsight. Like I see the 10 level. I don't know if you're going to get that on this. That would be quite the entry. I mean, it's probably interesting here.
Yeah, it's like here. It's like all-time high. It's like double. But really, it's like really interesting. I think under 15. And it's sad. I had it up at like 14 2 nights ago, and I was like, maybe I'll buy it in the morning. Like I don't want to buy it before bed. And then I woke up and was like, oh fuck, like why did I do that? But
in the prediction market space, and there's not a whole lot of ways to play that.
No, not liquid. And Pumpcade is like I don't say like micro prediction markets, but like short-term prediction markets is kind of how I think about them. And I haven't even used the product too much, so I'm not like it's one of those things I'm more bullish on the narrative. But I do think it's interesting.
Peter, you mentioned prediction markets last week. We talked about it a little bit this week. Like Kalshi, it does feel like Kalshi has taken the number one spot pretty clearly right now.
By a mile.
Yeah,
by a mile. Like Polymarket is getting their ass kicked. So we'll see. And, you know, if you watch CNBC, you're going to see Kalshi ads all the time. I mean, they're just, volume wise, it's not close. It's not even remotely close. So we'll see. I mean, it's wild to see just kind of I thought Polymarket would have more of a fight here, and maybe long term that'll switch. But as a user, I mean, the technology and just the usability of the sites are just remarkably different. And now you have DraftKings coming on board, Underdog coming on board, Novig just announced theirs. Obviously, we have Rothera being rolled out by Robinhood. So there's a ton of competition coming to the space, and it's a tremendous opportunity, both for financial markets and sports and all these other kind of ways you want to play it. One actually interesting ARB that I had on briefly was the under on the initial IPO price on Polymarket, actually on SpaceX, and then you could just like long the perps, and there's an arbitrage there. So stuff like that, I think, will get more and more institutionalized, and it's exciting kind of to just see the growth of prediction markets, and C League has been a huge proponent pushing prediction markets forward as well as perps. So I love both those things. I certainly see some of the trade-offs, and we'll see how it's regulated long term. But in the short term, it just seems like this is the direction it's going, despite all these states suing different operators. The CFTC is really fighting back. So I think we're going to kind of see the status quo, and these businesses will continue to invest and spend, and their growth is just undeniable at this point in time. So
yeah, Kalshi's foot is on the gas. That's clear. Like I do a Calcutta draft for NCAA, and we also did it for the World Cup. And just like the guys in my World Cup group chat, they're all betting games on Kalshi. That's where the action is. I saw they did $5 billion last week. So they're dominating sports, but like they're growing their crypto books significantly. They got the perps going over there, so it's kind of hard to deny the growth and success. Not sure if I shared on this show or a different show, but I have heard that the rumor mill that they're trying to IPO this year. There's a lot of things that have to get done ahead of that, but that would be a very interesting one.
Oh yeah, and I know that's definitely true, because the same people who are on SpaceX are all very interested in Kalshi right now. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out.
So I'm curious. Like we're gonna have to show in a couple minutes, but like, what do you think the SpaceX IPO means for these next few IPOs?
Oh, I think it's fantastic. I mean, if you're Anthropic or OpenAI, I mean, obviously Anthropic has kind of the government going against them now, but if SpaceX is trading this well, there's a lot to learn from it in terms of how you roll it out, and some of the rules and different things that Elon got passed with the new entry rule should be very beneficial. And the numbers are way, way better for these companies than what you have with SpaceX currently. And obviously SpaceX has a huge TAM and a narrative that's fantastic. But I mean, if you just look at how SpaceX is traded, and then you think about these other companies, I think that's one of the huge winners in this is those companies. So we'll see long-term how it plays out, but I would be trying to get public as fast as possible if I'm OpenAI or Anthropic or any of these other, meaningful companies that could have a strong narrative.
And you're going to see more demand for folks getting in those IPO.
Yeah, until the music stops.
Until it stops, for sure.
Music's definitely going. Euphoria has picked up. In these, I cannot emphasize enough, and I guess this is part of the reason I'm still just cautious, is that the wealthy are doing so well. They're making just insane amounts of money right now, and the average Joe is really hurting. So that generally leads to bad outcomes, and this SpaceX thing is just crazy. I mean, more important than Amazon right now. Elon's the king.
Elon is the king. Let's wrap on that note. I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in. I want to thank you, Dees, Peter, for joining this week. Good discussion. We'll be back next Tuesday to break down all the big stories in macro and crypto. Until then, go make it a great week, guys. Goodbye.